Jimmy Judge.
Thanks for having me.
How did you deal with those challenging times and not thinking about, oh, well, it didn't work in the past. Why is this going to work?
I'm just about to turn 30. It's taken me a few different life paths to get to this person I am now, because when the boxing and stuff didn't work out, I was doing bad things, hanging around like bad people. I got addicted to drugs, just chasing something, because I always had that thing like, I'm going to be a boxer, I'm going to do this, going to do that. And then when I wasn't, I was like, what's the point of my life? Like, what am I even doing?
When you're staring down something huge, something that's obviously not normal size, what's your first thought? When you're looking at it, what's the first thought that goes through your mind?
I'm glad I practiced for this. So I go into it going, up into this moment here, there's physically nothing else I could have done to prepare for it.
Look, when it comes to the crowd, do you find that the crowd can sometimes be a distraction more than an encouragement?
No, to be honest, because things that make me have to focus on the moment, they're the things I really chase in life. Particularly when you win, it's like a high. It feels like I've just won a boxing fight when you got 50 or 100 people cheering for eating food. I'm like, what a life. What's going on?
I so badly want this. Take two challenges, right? A challenge that you thought you would accomplish but didn't, and one you didn't think you would accomplish but did. What's the difference it plays in your mind?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it's just...
Welcome to the Men's Collective podcast. In this space, we keep the conversations real, inspiring and challenging you to become the man you are destined to be. Your family needs you to be better. Your friends need you to be better. We need you to be better. We are your hosts, the Average Joes. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Collective podcast. Wayne Taylor here, and as always, I'm joined by some very good mates and regulars to the show, ready to have another raw, unfiltered conversation. No fluff, no political correctness, just the real talk about what it means to be a man in today's world. Jamie, Mikey, how are we, lads?
Lads, how we doing?
Hey, boys.
We're good. Bit of a different time this week. This is good. Like typical Friday arvo. Snuck in an early one.
I think I prefer Friday afternoon.
Friday arvo has a good feel to it, doesn't it? Look, also joining us today is a social media superstar, a man who over the past year has grown a cult following for doing something that I personally love more than my own kids, and that is eating food. Personal trainer turned professional eating competitor, a guy with more tattoos than a bikie gang's Christmas party, the guy that consumes 10,000 calories faster than I lose hair. But if being an all-round good bloke was an Olympic sport, he'd be on the podium draped in gold. Jimmy Judge, welcome to the Men's Collective podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me. It's a
Do you like
pleasure.
that intro?
Yeah, I'm chuffed. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Good old chat GPT does wonders.
That's beautiful.
Well, welcome, mate. I appreciate the effort you've made to get here.
No, thank you so much for having
Really
me.
good, buddy. Look, before we get started, if you're new to the Average Joes and to this podcast, do yourself a favour, hit that like and subscribe button on Spotify, Apple and YouTube. If you haven't already, grab some merch over at www.averagejoes.net.au. And look, don't just listen, get involved. Find your nearest Average Joes meetup this week, because if there's one thing we need more of in this world, it's men sharpening men. Now, today's topic I've called one bite at a time. You've all heard the saying, how do you need an elephant? One bite at a time. It's a classic, and for good reason. It means that no matter how big a challenge seems, you can always break it down, tackle it step by step, and eventually get through it. Whether it's building a business or building yourself, dealing in life's challenges or dealing with life's curveballs, it doesn't really matter. The size of your determination has to outweigh the size of the challenge. Big bites, small bites, slow or fast, each one counts. So, how do we approach challenges in a way that makes them manageable? Well, with food eating legend Jimmy Judge joining us in their house today, along with the Average Joe's crew, we're going to break it down and show you how we as men can smash even the biggest obstacles one bite at a time. All right, fellas, you ready?
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Good
I
stuff.
wore my stretchy pants, man.
Well, Jimmy, I'd love to start with your story, mate. First of all, like I said, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
I'd
thank
love the audience to hear about yourself, mate. Start where you were and where you are today, buddy. You go
for sure. So I was born in Mount Isa because Dad was working underground in the mines. Then we moved to Townsville for schooling. I had a few different jobs, just didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, I guess. But while I was growing up, I knew I wanted to box. I was boxing, like real angry teen, like a lot of young dudes, I guess. And boxing definitely kept me out of jail, for sure. So was boxing, was dieting, was starving, and I used to watch Man vs. Food on the Food Network, and that's how I was like...
With Adam Richmond.
With Adam Richmond, the
God, I
man,
love that show.
What a
the
show.
goat, yeah.
I love that show.
And I love that he wasn't like a competitive eater, he's just a chef. And he just decided to travel around and do the food challenges. And I thought, like, because competing against other people never really did it never really sparked an interest for me. But like traveling around and doing the restaurant challenges, like versing the house and having a bit of banter with the managers and stuff, because I've also had a hospitality background as I got older. I thought like that could be really fun. That would be really, really fun. So finished boxing, got into bodybuilding, didn't really love it. Got back, like I liked it, but it just wasn't the same as punching people. Then got into boxing, went back into boxing, had some prize fights. And then like I was obviously getting bigger, so my opponents were getting bigger, and I was just noticing I was getting concussed more. And then I saw that documentary on the NFL players with the CTE, and I thought, oh, it's probably time to find a sport that doesn't potentially send me, doesn't take away from the brain cells I've already lost. So then I was just doing fitness training, and I was just I really need I need a purpose and a goal to stay kind of motivated, I guess. Otherwise, so I was training for the sake of training, and it just wasn't, boxing was easy to train for because if you don't train hard, you get smashed. So it's like, oh, well, there's some great motivation. So I'd finished boxing and I was sort of just being fit for the sake of being fit. And I thought, man, I need something else. And while I was looking for something else, I actually found a restaurant challenge at my local restaurant. Went to attempt it, absolutely got smashed by it, didn't even come close. But it sparked this thing in me where I was like, there's got to be a way to learn how to get better at this. And if I'm doing this would also mean that I've got motivation to train, because I don't want to just blow out and put on 1,000 kilos from all the food that I'd be consuming, pursuing this little hobby sort of thing. So then I started filming them, started researching and reaching out to people that do it as a job and that sort of stuff on how to practice to get better, because I thought you just rocked up and ate, but there's so much more to it. So then I was doing the videos. Then I worked in the youth detention center for 3 years. This was before the video, sorry. So just sort of tracking along of where I was going. So I started the videos when I was in the mines, and then I was working week on, week off in the mines, doing the videos, and then the videos just took off. And I was actually been fortunate enough now, the position I'm in now, so I just do this full time. So I just just a professional pig.
If only I knew this was a possibility.
You see the envy in Wayne's eyes.
You're explaining what dream job. That's that's insane, mate. I because going back to the Man versus Food with Adam Richmond, I was a big fan of that guy because it was so original. No one to be creative enough to have a TV show that went around and just competitively ate was insane.
For sure. And he just seems like a chill guy. He's just a normal guy. He didn't beat every challenge, but he was getting better and better. And just his love of food and people was a thing that really drew me to that. I was like, I could see myself doing something like that.
What's the best food you've eaten in regards to flavour? What did you eat and you went, this is actually insane? Put the competition aside.
I've done some really, really good ramen. Some really good,
yeah, right.
The big, I've done big ramen challenges where you think, as something gets bigger, sometimes the quality isn't quite as what it would be if it was smaller. But I've done
my wife.
Hey, that's it, quality over quantity. But yeah, no, I've had some really great ramen around even the Brisbane area, which is awesome. So, yeah.
Really? See, I ramen's just one on the back end of my.
Yeah,
not a fan at all.
Nah, fair. Yeah.
I'm a carb loading kind of guy. I love pizza and that kind of.
Yeah,
pizza.
fair. Yeah.
Okay, mate. What I want to do is I'd love to use your story on how you tackle these food challenges, because look, what we are about here at Average Joe's is men becoming better men in any way possible. We say it all the time, in our marriages, in our families, and all things like that. What I'd love to do, mate, is I'd love to hear how you break down a food challenge, and so that we can subtract from that in how we break down challenges that men face. Because you're saying we're in an epidemic or no pandemic. What's the word? I don't even know which one it is. Epidemic of. We're in flooded. There's so much attention now in regards to mental health and things like that. And we're not so much a mental health group here, but we see it in men all the time, especially men that come to our groups. And so we're in this this time where we've just started a series recently, which we're about to release, called The War on Masculinity, on how that seems to be breaking down within men, because there seems to be so much attention on stripping men away from who they're supposed to be. So we deal and we see not only ourselves, the challenges that we face, but we see it all the time in the men that we deal with.
Yep.
What I'd love to do, mate, I'd love to throw some questions at you, and I'm sure the guys, you've got some questions, but also for us to discuss here, in relation to these food challenges. So what I want to do, I'll start with the first question. When you're staring down a massive burger or something huge, something that's obviously not normal size to what you would normally eat.
Yeah.
What's your first thought when you're looking at it? What's the first thought that goes through your mind?
I'm glad I practiced for this.
Practice.
Like practice, yeah. I treat it as crazy as it sounds. I treat the challenges like I treat a fight, which is I go into every fight or challenge now because it's changed, but knowing that there's nothing I could have done more to prepare for this. So I go into it going, regardless of what happens here, I'll walk away with my head held high, knowing that up until this moment here, there's physically nothing else I could have done to prepare for it.
What does preparing look like? How do you prepare to eat a lot? Because I really want to know. I want to take notes.
Outside of the, like the cardio and stuff to sort of keep the weight down, but the actual preparing of the eating more is just like stomach stretching exercises, like, eating kilos of like vegetables, liters of water. So you're actually like stretching your stomach. So over a period of time, you actually increase the capacity that your stomach could hold. So like a year ago, I think I was like maybe like just under 3 liters. Whereas now it's probably close to like 4 and a bit liters, which translates probably to like 3.5 kilos of food. So it's every 12 months I go back to some like, I guess like pivotal challenges for me, and I'll go back and see how much I've improved. So there's like a 2.5 kilo burger in Sunshine, on the Gold Coast. So I did that a year ago, got like, I think it was like 18 minutes, went away. I've been practicing, and then just did it recently and did it like 12. So it's sort of that, like to see that linear progression. And, but yeah, it's just so uncomfortable. Like, like when you have a big Chinese buffet and you leave and you just feel sick, even if you're stretching with like low calorie foods, it is like, I'm sure your belly's not supposed to do that. It will do it. Your body's amazing if you train it to do specific stuff. But it just comes with like a certain level of uncomfortability. So when you're sitting there with something massive in front of you, it's like, all right, well, I've really, really put in the work for this. So even if I don't get it, it's like, I know I couldn't have done anything more to this point. And if I can't get it, it just means I just need more time to keep practicing.
So when you say you prepare for a while, so you're sitting down. Let's just stick with the burger. You're sitting down in front of a massive, let's just call it a 4 kilo burger, and you're looking at it. You're staring it in the eyes, right? And you're like, I'm about to take this on. In regards to preparation, what's the difference then if you leading up to that and you've prepared to take it on, compared to a challenge that's just been thrown at you? Do you notice that you react different?
For sure. So it's definitely go into the ones I prepared for a lot more confident. Like I definitely feel more confident. The other ones I'll still do, like I'll give anything a go, but sort of just knowing in the back of your mind, like I'm very uncertain if I like just knowing you could have done more is that little nagging voice in the back of your head thinking like, did I tick every box? Have I done everything I could have possibly done? Am I sort of leaving, stuff on the table? If it's thrown at you last minute, you do what you do with what you have. But it's still in the back of my head like, oh, this could go poorly.
It's interesting the difference though. Hey, like when you look at say challenges, because I find that I perform better when things are thrown at me last minute.
Yeah.
But when I say perform better, I perform the situation in a better, but I get a better result if I've prepared.
For sure.
And I think that's a difference in when you look at, say, like work situations, right? If a challenge gets thrown at me, I work super fast and I'm super quick and I'm super effective, but the outcome is a hell of a lot different if I've prepared for it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think when it comes to preparation, I see a massive difference because I think there are so many men that get thrown curveballs because we don't really prepare for a lot of stuff as men.
No, for sure. Well, you can't for some of it, I guess. Yeah.
And I think because by nature we're fixers. We're Mr. Fixers. We say this all the time on the body that men are fixers. Your conversations with your wife, it's hard to just hold a normal conversation because you're just trying to fix every situation she throws at you. But there's a massive difference when a challenge does come your way that you're unprepared for.
Yeah.
And I find it all the time, especially myself. I act better, but the result isn't as good.
Well, I think what Jimmy said before was like sometimes there is things that you can't prepare for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the more you prepare for in your life, then the more like sort of, I guess, not time, but the more capacity that you have to deal with that thing that is unexpected. And I think that's what happens a lot of the time. We just go, oh, yeah, we'll just take things as it comes and all the rest of it. And then what happens is that just one or two things throw you off track.
For sure.
And it actually has a domino effect on the other stuff. So there's some things that, like Jimmy was saying there, where, he was like very solutions problem when he solutions focused when he was there, because he was like, man, I want to get better at this. So rather than just going, oh, I'm just going to go eat and see what happens, he actually started reaching out and asking people for advice and doing that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I thought that was important where you're like, okay, so rather than just trying to work shit out yourself, you're actually finding out the answers for it. So, yeah.
Preparing your body is one thing for what you're saying. You stack your body full of waters and veggies and get your whole stomach stretched. So your body's prepared. How do you prepare your mind?
It's actually taken me a really long time to get to the point where I can be okay with whatever the outcome is, because I'm so goal orientated with everything that I think like the only person I find that I'm particularly unkind to over like a long period of time is myself. So if I feel like I could have done more, and like I always want more. Whereas if someone else gives it their best go, I'll go like, I won't think any less of them. Like if you tried your best, you did your best. But it's taken me like a long time and a lot of like introspection and also just practice, I guess, like practice of not getting challenges done at times, or hitting adversity and it not going well, and then failing and then having to come back and redo it, but also learning to be still okay. Like the world doesn't end, like, you know, it can be food, can be other stuff, but you can't always win, but there's still that part of, I guess it's like a guy thing where I want to though. I know I can't always win, but I still want to every time. And when I don't, I'm still disappointed. Even if I know the challenge is ridiculous, like 5 kilos, something, like I know straight up I need to practice more before that. But there's still that part of your head that's like, but maybe. Like,
so the ones that you haven't conquered, so the ones that have beaten you, do they stay in the back of your mind going, I'm coming back for you?
For sure, yeah. If they're like, sometimes the restaurant will only be like the challenge will only be for a small period of time, and they just sort of go away. Like, you know, you can't rematch them. But particularly ones that I've come real close to, or even ones I haven't come close to at all, they're the ones that every 6 or 12 months I want to go back. And even if I don't get it the second time, to just see, okay, cool. Because it's really easy sometimes to lose sight of the fact of the progress we make, because it's just all relative. Because, you know, as I do this more and more, the challenges get crazier and crazier, and I expect more of myself. So it's really easy to lose sight of the fact of, you know, where I was 12 months ago is nowhere near where I was here, but I was probably more confident 12 months ago because I knew less. That's sort of like, I think the more I know, I know nothing. And like, you know, like when I was more ignorant about it all, I was like, I'm pretty fucking good. And then you sort of, sorry, I'm trying not to swear, but
No, you're right.
but then the more I know, I'm sort of like, all right, well, this is where I need to actually like set a goal and then break it down from the goal backwards. Like, all right, so if I've got something in a month that's hectic, what does the next 4 weeks, like, how do I break this down into planning? Like, what should I be doing if there's a mini challenge in between it? So sort of like, because I was always just like, oh, I'll get to this goal and then we'll just figure it out. But now I've sort of gone, here's the goal. How do I break down this planning process? So from now to then, it's as effective as possible, you know, particularly like volume, or even if it's just the logistics of, you know, we did some challenges in Bali. So it's like, well, how am I going to water load before Bali? That doesn't mean that I'm, you know, urinating myself on the airplane. So just little challenges like that.
How do you water load in Bali when you can't drink the water?
It ends up costing more money because you end up spending, you know, all this money on bottled water. But
Yeah.
Going back to that question I just asked you about, you know, preparing your body is one thing, but preparing your mind. When you break that down into where you see most men fail in life, most men's bodies can take a fair chunk, but obviously, you know, getting hit by a car, it's rare that you're going to last. Your body's not going to take it. But yet, you look at the statistic in men that fail themselves, or if we want to word it that way, but it's where they lose the battle in the mind. It's the preparation of the mind that most men lose themselves. The bodies can take a hell of a lot, but it's their mind that throws.
yeah, it probably works against them.
Well, one of the things I found interesting what you were saying is when you prepare for a challenge, you go in there and you're confident as. If one got thrown at you, you struggle.
Yeah.
But you've done all the prep work.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Nothing changes. If you did a challenge today that was a surprise versus one tomorrow you planned for,
True.
you're equally prepared. So
Yes,
it is 100% just a little switch in your head where you go back yourself and that's it.
For sure, 100%. And like you said before, with sometimes stuff will be chucked at me last minute, and they're the ones that I'm. It's not that I perform better, but I'll still get them done. And I think it's because I think, oh, I've really got to step up here because I wasn't expecting this, and they still go really well. Like I've never had a challenge thrown last minute that goes terrible. It's just that little bit of your head where it's like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. But I've never ever gone, oh, I wasn't ready for that. Then it goes bad. It's just like, oh, that was unexpected. And then it's like you said, it still goes fine.
Yeah.
But that little thing in your head that's like, you're not ready. And it's like, well, I am. I just didn't know. You know?
I also think a really good thing is that you're competing against yourself. So you're talking about, okay, the 16 minutes to do the 2.5 kilo burger, and then you went to 12 and all the rest of it. And I think that's where men can get in trouble sometimes, where they compare themselves with someone at such a different level to their, and they lose that confidence and whatnot, where you're just keeping track of you're versing yourself, like it's you versus you type thing, rather than actually going and sitting down at a professional competitive eating challenge and having these guys that have done it their whole life, and then they kick your ass and you go, oh shit, you know,
and feel bad about yourself.
Correct.
But
yeah,
I really struggled with in life for a very long time, being super depressed, comparing myself with other people, and then I heard this quote: "Comparison is the thief of joy."
yeah,
And now it's just like, you know, I get people all the time will message me this, oh, I can do this quicker, and I'll be like, I'm happy for you, like I really am, like cool. But like when I was younger, I would have been like, oh, like, damn it, like. But exactly like you said, like if I'm getting if like 1% better every day for myself, that's all I can ask. Like I don't want to be you can't be the best at everything all the time. And I think as men, we've got this feeling until you sort of think about it deeper, like I can't be the best at everything. But then like you'll look at someone else that's, you know, someone's, like for instance, I have people that are like, oh, you know, I wish I could do what you do. And it's like, well, you can, bro. Like you just start now. Like you don't have to do the food stuff. But if you want to like do a podcast or do anything, you just start. Like no one cared what I did for ages. And then it just took off, and maybe it wouldn't and maybe it did. But if you don't start, but they compare where I'm at now to where they are now. But if I compared where I was a year ago to where I am now, I'd be so depressed because I'd be thinking, oh, I'll never do that. It just sort of one day turns into a month, and then you just end up where you are, and it's like, wow, okay, well, I'm just glad that one step in front of the other, sort of like you said, it sort of just builds on small wins.
I think with comparisons, I think sometimes comparison gets thrown into the bad basket, if you want to call it that, because I think sometimes with comparisons, like if you sat down in front of this big ass burger and you punched out in, what do you say, 12 minutes or whatever the challenge was, you did it in 12 minutes, right? Now, if you then heard that someone did it in 11, but you know that you did your absolute best at 12, knowing that someone did it in 11, does that not make your brain go, okay, it's now possible to do it in 11, so I'm going to try and do it in 11? Like, do you think sometimes comparison can be a motivator?
For sure. And I think exactly that. I think it's a mindset thing. Like when I say like comparison is the thief of joy, I think it's more so like when you're comparing, like if you're better than me, I'm shit. When it's like, if you're better than me, like you said, I saw people doing this full time before I knew it was possible to do it full time, and they're obviously a lot better than me, but it gave me motivation. Like I can, even if I'll never be as good of an eater, like I can turn this into a job, and that gave me hope. But before I would look at it, before I changed my mindset, I would look at it like, oh, he's better than me, I'll never be that good. Like sort of like you're sort of self-defeating before you even give it a go. For sure.
Because it's interesting. You look at so many men out there that have quit. And when I say quit, I'm talking quit in life, right? Their life's ended on their own actions, right? And you look at leading up to it, and a lot of the things they start to say, or a lot of the things that messages they're left behind in regards to finding things too hard. I can't do it. I can't go on. This is too hard. But if you know someone else that's been there and done it, I think that could become a motivator.
Definitely.
Where you go, well, hang on a minute. It's one thing for me to say, I can't. But then when you look around the room and you go, well, he can, he did, he has, he's doing it now. Sometimes those comparisons can be that very motivator. We'll go, well, if I'm saying it's too hard, why did they succeed? If they've succeeded, maybe there is a way out. Maybe I can do this. Maybe the challenge isn't, yes, it may be as big, but maybe breaking it down into smaller pieces, maybe it's not as hard.
Yeah.
Still same size, but the difficulty might not be the same.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to have the right challenge at the right time. That's why there's levels to things. Like if you play football, you've got C grade, B grade,
Definitely.
A grade. Yep. Then you got regionals, states. But if you went and played against a guy who's playing for Australia and you're a C grade player, it's going to be way too far to think that you are going to think that you're shit. But if you're the best possible C grade player that you can be at that time, and then you start to try to move into the B grade sort of thing, then it's actually, that is part about breaking it down, is taking on the right challenge at the right time for where your skill set is. So
it's true. Mate, let's stick with that big burger for a while.
Yeah.
I've got this burger
It
on my
works.
mind.
It works.
Are we doing lunch afterwards?
Mate,
getting
I should have brought some napkins for Wayne and just sort of like, here you go, bro.
Celebrating the whole interview. This is weird. No. Does the first bite set the tone for the rest of the challenge, or can you make adjustments along the way?
Yeah, so I sort of more on the fly, make adjustments along the way. But it used to happen where I'd be, particularly with like smaller challenges that were real fast, I'd always get so nervous and probably like choke on the first bite because you like bite off more than you can chew, because I was never used to having a crowd. So the first few times I had a crowd, I'd like almost guarantee stuff up the first bite because you just get like trigger happy, and then you just try and shove more food in your mouth than you can even handle. So I had to learn real quick that we do adjust, but I'd probably almost start off slower sometimes and then adjust from there and sort of just get, like you said, get a feel, because sometimes the bun's like super rigid, sometimes it's super soft. If it's soft, it's easy. If it's like, sometimes it's that real thick, like bagel type, like brioche bread, which is almost impossible to chew. So then you've got to wet it. So it just, it definitely does depend. So I sort of just adjust as it goes, because sometimes I'll have a full plan and then from the first bite, I'm like, that's not going to work. So I'm going to do something else in terms of speed or timing or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
You said it yourself. You just said sometimes you've bitten off more than you can chew. I look at that for example, for myself, running a business. There's been jobs where I've taken on and I've sat there, been sent the purchase order, about to start, and I go, wow, I think in this job I've bitten off a lot more than I can chew. And it puts you in a situation you go, well, I have to just get it done now.
Yeah.
When you do bite off more than you can chew, like, talk us about, like, what do you do then? Do you spit it out and break it into 2 bites, or do you just try and swallow it whole? Or what do
Just
you
try
do?
and swallow. Yeah, just like take a minute, get my breath, like get it down, and then just don't do it again. Just like, I'm like, all right, well that was a bit much this time. Get it done, and then just like break it down into a little bit smaller, because I used to think like the bigger bites the better. But if, like you said, if you're biting off more than you can chew, if you're taking on more than you can handle, you actually go slower because you're not getting it done. Like the smaller bites,
That's an interesting thought.
Those smaller bites, you like chew, swallow, little steps, little steps, little steps. Like you said with the football player, if you just slowly work your way up, you don't have a big drop back down. Whereas if you like, if in the past I've tried to make a leap that was too much, and then you get really sick after the challenge and you're done with challenges for a bit. If you make yourself really crook, it's really hard to then want to back it up in a few days. Because like you said, I've just, you take that little step or consistently biting off more than you can chew. Whereas by just doing those little steps, it's like, oh, this is all right. Like I'm okay. And it's just, it's smaller, but it's quicker. I think it's just more consistent.
That's interesting you just said that, right? Because you look at, sometimes it's not the size of the challenge that can throw you, it's your approach to the challenge.
Sure. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But that must throw so many men. You look at men out there facing a divorce or facing an illness or whatever it is that they're facing. It's not so much the situation that throws them, it's their approach. And sometimes their approach to it like throws them entirely, and then thinks that this is, it creates that mindset of an impossibility. But it's not the challenge itself.
Out of curiosity as well, while you're doing it, do you have to like control your thought process where you go,
sure.
I'm not full, chew, do this, focus on this?
Just like, or, normally, like I know from training, I know roughly what my stomach capacity is at the moment. So I know it's like, 3 and a bit kilos. So if I'm looking at something and I know, it's probably pretty close, I'll be halfway. Like, last night I did a challenge. I was like halfway through it and I was full. And my brain was going, you're full. And then I'm telling myself, well, you can't be, because I know, like, for a fact that you can fit more than this. And then I sort of had a big burp, had a second win, and I was fine again for, like, the next, 10 minutes. But like you said, it's your brain will trick you a million times before your body actually quits. It's like running a race. Like, when you're running, it'll go stop, 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 stop. But your body's like, I'm still good. But your brain just will try and save. But I think it's just that defense mechanism that we even have in life. As you see this, some things like, food challenges. Oh, this is hard. Your brain goes, well, trying to protect you. Stop then. Stop. And you're like, well, like in the case of a food challenge, I know I can fit this all in. But your brain has that little self-preservation mechanism where it's trying to stop before you actually complete the task.
I have 45 years of experience of telling myself, Wayne, you're full. No, keep going, mate, keep going. My brain has told me that for 45 years. Buddy, hold back, pull back, you're full. No, I can do this.
So how do you stop your brain from thinking though? Because that's literally, you just got to stop thinking, and just keep going.
Yeah.
So is that just practice, or is that just pure determination?
I think it like comes a bit from like my sporting background too, where like, because I used to do like cross country, then boxing and stuff like that. Whereas, you have fights and there's like 1 round left and you think, I can't hold my hands up, I'm exhausted. And you go, all right, well, if it's a 2-minute round in amateurs, you're like, it's 120 seconds. And then the bell goes and you're like, well, it's less than 120 seconds now. I just need to not get knocked out and hopefully win this last round. If I win this last round, I'll probably win the fight. So it's just that, just in the moment, like I'm not thinking about, oh, I'm so tired and I've got 2 minutes left. I'm thinking, I just need to win this second. And I think like it's the same with the food stuff. I'm not thinking like, God, I'm dying. It's like, can I fit one more bite in? Yep. What about one more? So it's not even, I'm so full. It's like, could I fit this next bite in? Yep. One more? Yeah, one more. And then before you know it, there's a few times I've gone, hey, I'm done. But in my brain, it was like, oh, I can't do this at the beginning. And then just from going, well, I'm going to do my best. And then you just go little bit. And you look at the clock and you're like, oh, I'm in time. And there's a few times you can see in the end of the videos where I'm physically surprised. Like, hey, like didn't think that was going to happen. But
I think that's the key, is that you're not thinking about nothing, because you're always thinking about something. You've got to replace it with something else. So you've got to replace it with that something positive or working towards it. You know, as you're saying,
sure.
like you go, like I'm full, and you're like, no, you're not, mate. You can. So it's actually having an argument with yourself in your head. It's controlling what you're saying to yourself during that time. And I think that's a problem where a lot of guys go, stop thinking about this, stop thinking about this, stop thinking about it. And then, but all you can do, you're actually telling yourself to think about that.
Yeah.
So
I think also like there's probably 2 different types of men, and you've got like the David Goggins where they want to like get really angry and they're like, fucking harden up and you're shit and you're a bitch. And some people thrive off that like kind of almost like demented negative self-talk, but some people love it. Like, but I don't. Like, so like you said, some people would probably be like, don't be a bitch, don't quit, keep going. Whereas that does nothing for me. Whereas like you said, I'm like more of a positive, like, yep, you got it, mate. Like you've practiced for this, bro. I talk to myself like a friend, like you can do it. If you don't do it, you don't die, but like, come on, you're fine. Whereas I think, some people focus, there's that trend of like, no days off. Like you got to be rigid and like almost focusing on like that self-talk of being so heavy that like you actually lose that positive self-talk because it gets too much. Like you're just constantly whipping yourself.
That's you've just brought up a good point, because I'm actually the opposite of what you've just said.
Sure,
there.
yeah.
I'm the guy that, I guess, not thrives on it, but I'm the guy that is more motivated by when someone says, oh, yeah, probably don't do that, mate. Or like lifting something. Oh, mate, I'll come and give you a hand. You won't be able to lift that by yourself. Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay, watch this.
Yeah.
That's my motivation. I'm not one for, come on, Wayne, you can do it. I'm like, oh, please. I find it patronising that you're like, oh, you can do it, and you're strong, and like, oh, please don't say that.
From being a PT, I figured there was 2 types of people, men and women, but particularly dudes. Some dudes want you to be like, you got it, brother. You got it. And otherwise, come on, man, you did more than this last week. What are you doing? Like, hurry, let's go. Like, we're running out of time. You paid for 30 minutes. You do it fit. Some people want that. Like, let's go. Yeah. And other people, no, you got it, brother. And it's just trying to learn who's who. And I think it's hard to figure out who you are as a person too, because like you said to yourself, once you figure it out, you're sweet. But sometimes you don't really. You think you know, but you're not sure.
So going back onto your personal training experience when you used to train people. You being the coach on the outside and you're motivating the person and you're giving them hints and tips and you're the one watching form and how they're doing it. When you're the one coaching somebody else, is it different when you're coaching yourself through something like this?
Yeah, like particularly with, I guess not so much with like the PT, but when I was like coaching boxing, that was the like with PT that you're not really getting hurt. So it's sort of like, I'm still there with them. It feels very safe. And it definitely is different motivating someone else as to motivating myself. But with boxing, and, my dad used to box as well. He said the same thing. When you're in there, like, you're going to get hurt. So I'm cool about it. Like, whatever. Like, it is, you know what it is. But when it's someone else, like when you're coaching someone else and you're coaching them, but you can't control what they do and sort of feeling so helpless. Like, if they're getting smoked, they're getting smoked. Like, all you have is a towel and you don't want to throw in the towel unless you absolutely have to. That's the part that I really struggle with. Because when it's myself, I know, like, I'm cool to let it ride, whether there's challenges of boxing. Like, if you have a bad circumstance, I can deal with it. But if it's someone I'm coaching, like, oh, I don't want to see him hurt. Like, even, if I have a friend doing a challenge with me, I tell them pull up before you feel sick. But I won't do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's hard for sure.
Like, you've just described being a father.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah.
It's wow.
It's exactly what I was thinking when you're going, yep, that's like a kid. You're like, oh.
Can you gauge, if you're, say, halfway through, or not even halfway through, you're starting a challenge, can you gauge along that journey where you know, oh, I actually don't think I'm going to make this?
For sure.
How do you gauge it?
For sure.
What are the signals? What are the signs?
Oh, I just, particularly with, like, for instance, last night, like, there was like that massive big schnitzel challenge, didn't finish it, 20-minute time limit, 10 minutes in, I'm slightly past halfway, but I know that I slowed down as it goes. Like, I'm slightly, only just past halfway at the halfway mark, and could even say maybe halfway at the halfway mark. In my brain, I know that I don't get quicker as I get, like, you know, because your jaw fatigues, your belly gets full. I know that if I'm not sufficiently probably halfway at the halfway mark, it's probably not going to happen. But then when that's when that positive self-talk goes in, well, it's like, well, I'm just going to get as close as I physically can, because, you know, even with like 2 minutes to go, you start looking, you're like, it's not going to happen. But particularly when you have other people there watching as well, it's like, put on a good show. And I also want to see how close I can get, because then next time, like you said as well, next time you can go back and beat it, sort of thing. But it is like, it's a mental battle. Like, once you know, and I guess it's just repetition. Once you know, like, all right, there's 4 minutes left, there's 6 minutes left, I'm not going to get it done. Like, it is very, very tempting to go, oh, well, next time. But it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also I've done that when I was starting, and then you always think, but how close would I have got? You don't know. Like, maybe you could have got it done. Even if you don't, I would still rather fight to the death and then see how close I can get than just kind of go, probably won't happen. And because that's the ones I regret. The only challenges I regret are the ones where you know you're not going to finish, but you kind of pull up because you're like, oh, it's probably not going to happen. Because you always think, what if it did? Even if it wasn't going to, it sort of just feels like you've quit on yourself early. So now I just fight to the bitter death and just take the loss.
Is that like a learnt behavior that you might have got from PT? You know, when you're sort of like pushing yourself to try to lift something, and then you're like, okay, you push it, and even though you go, oh yeah, I'm probably not going to get this last set, I'm going to see how many I can get.
For sure, yeah.
So, and do you find that you've taken a lot of that past experience from those boxing, gym, that sort of stuff, and moving into what you're doing now?
Definitely. And particularly with the fitness, the boxing was the best thing in the world for me ever, because now I'm in a situation like this, I can't have an ego, because I got humbled so many times with boxing. Because, you know, when you're young and you're starting, you know, Muhammad Ali, you think, oh, I'm great. And then you'll go and spar someone else. Like, I was fighting amateur like 57 to 60 kilos when I started, like and then I'd go and spar a pro, like a senior that was a pro, that he'd be like 50 kilos and he'd just flog you. But it was the best thing in the world, because it's given me that approach on life now, whereas there's always going to be someone bigger and better. I can only focus on being the best I can possibly be. And exactly like you said with the reps, like, even if I don't finish this, I'll just go up until the point where I can't, because I'd rather at least know that's all I have than just wonder, like, was it 3 more reps? Was it 2? Was it, like, you know, I don't want to lay in bed thinking like, I could have done more. Like,
yep.
There you go. So when you've just been flogged and you go, that's just made me better.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's one of those things where it's hard at the time, but then you look back and go, man, like, I used to train with pros as an amateur, and then when I'd fight other amateurs, it'd be great because they're not pros. But when I used to hate training until I changed my mindset, because you're just getting bashed and you think, what is the purpose of this? And then I look back at it now, it's the best training I could have possibly had.
Yep.
And that was the best possible thing I could have had. But I was just too young initially to realize that, like you said, like, you get better from failing. Like, no one's, you know, you fail your way to succeeding. Like, there's so many things I tried with making this full time that just went terribly. And there's so many times I wanted to quit in the making the videos, because the internet's a shitty place when you read the comment section, and I got a bad habit for it. But like you said, you literally fail your way to success. And I think it's just getting comfortable at changing your mind. Like, all right, I'm not a failure. This is a failure.
Yep. But just touching on the comments.
Oh,
How do you take that? Like, what do you get thrown at you, and how do you take it? Because that's life, right?
Sure.
As men, we all cop shit all the time.
We cop shit for being men nowadays.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I was on
We
a
don't know what a
podcast.
woman is, but we cop shit for being.
Yeah, we
men.
don't know we still can't explain what a woman is, but we cop it for being men.
You know when
figure.
it's not though, right? Sorry.
Or you
Sounds
should know.
You should know.
You know what you've done.
It hurts.
Yeah, Jimmy, good question actually about the comments. Like, what are some of the bad ones you get? And
So I've literally just got to a habit of, if it's really terrible, I just block them. Like, I've had some, like, you know, everything from like death threats to, you know, I'm going to find your family.
for eating some chicken wings.
Craziness. Like,
Really?
it's absolute. I get like I kind of sad, happy moment when I realized that maybe I've made it on social media when I got a DM'd death threat. Like someone DM'd me to tell me they were going to come and kill me, and I was like, "Have I made it? Like, is this? Have I done it? Have I arrived? Like,
Did they give you any clue why they wanted to kill you? Was
no,
it
I
Max,
think
or
like
was it
I unfortunately, I have some family members that struggle with addiction, and when they go on like benders, I know they sort of self-loathe, and then they'll like reach out and lash out at people that they feel are doing better than them because it makes them feel insecure about themselves. So this is just a guess. I have no idea. But if someone sees me eating food as a job and they don't see all the shit that has happened in my life to get to this point, I could understand that someone in a very dark place could hate me because they think, I'm sitting here being a drug addict, doing whatever, and he's had an easy life and his privilege and it's that, and you just assume. And I guess that's because I don't have anything you could really, like my content's not risque. You know, I'm not very opinionated. Like I eat food, like it's not very deep. Like I'm not doing heart surgery on orphans. Like I'm just, so I think when it comes down to like the real hateful stuff, it's a lot of the time it's just misunderstanding, but it's taken me the better part of 18 months to be cool with it. Because the first 6 months I would just let it ruin my whole day, and I'd walk around like the world hated me and think like, I'm going to quit. This sucks. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Many comments from vegans.
That's
a yes.
Look, and it's just like
Put the chicken down.
Veganism's like CrossFit, and I've done CrossFit, so I can say this. No one cares. Like, just do like we do care. Sorry, let me rephrase that. We do care, but I don't jump on your videos telling you to have a steak. Like, I think you should just live and let live. You know, like I shouldn't say no one cares because people do, of course, but like live and let live. If you want to be a vegan, like I support that. That's fantastic. I don't believe in it personally. But it's just like religion, like whatever you believe, I'm happy you believe it. I'm not going to force my beliefs on you, but don't
I think we say it right now. You need to eat a steak.
Yeah.
Just say it.
No, that's fine. They can live without it. I'll just eat their
More steak
portion.
for us.
Yeah,
So,
and then the other one that sort of makes me laugh because they never respond to the comment is they go, "There's people starving in Africa, and you're doing this." But we campaign for food bank. We raised hundreds, if not probably thousands of dollars a year for food bank and living. So men's mental health, just mental health and food organizations. Because I had this feeling when I was starting, which is like, there's a little part of me that's like, if I'm always eating loads, I would love to try and give back to people that can't always eat loads. So we've just started doing at the moment, we've got a challenge running where, you get a mate, you challenge them, you tag them in the video, you both go and eat a burrito. Whoever eats the fastest doesn't pay. And the loser pays for both burritos and donates $10 to food bank. And it's just a fun way to call out your mates, and it's just a bit of banter. We get a lot of guys doing it because it's good banter, and everyone wants to shit on their mates if you do one thing better than them. But the comments are always like, "Oh, there's people starving and you're doing this," and I always just send them a link. Yeah, I feel you, bro. Here is the link to food bank. Please donate whatever you can. They never respond. They never respond like it's.
See, I would have done that and gone, all right, we're doing a food challenge in Africa.
I'm on Uber Eats now ordering burritos. Give me a second.
So when you were talking about before about the sparring the professional fighters and all the rest of it, did you find that some of them were actually helping you through that process? So not all of them were just bashing you up. They took you to your level.
For sure.
And then just sort of pushed you just a little bit past. And that's
100%. All of them. And in reflection, they could have killed me. Like the fact that I was conscious is just testament to the fact they were working at my level. You know, we had a thing in sparring that I sort of learned as you get older, because as I got older, I had to learn it, because when you're younger, you can just go hell for leather because everyone's just babying you if you got a good gym, and I was very lucky. But it's just like 5%. They say 5% above your opponent. If he's really good and you're better, just stay 5%. You're not trying to kill him. You're just trying to work with him. You know, a lot of the time you'll also, it forces you to get better when you can teach something. But yeah, exactly what you said. Those pros were doing that 5% rule with me, because if they weren't, I would have been sleeping. And looking back at it, I'm grateful they did work with me.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part, where if you're helping one of your mates or if you're mentoring someone on how to do it, sometimes it's not just for you to push them the whole way. It's just to help them sort of get to that next step. And,
for sure.
Yeah.
That's a good thought, mate. When you're mid-challenge and you realise you're not going to make it, what disappoints you the most? The fact that you're not going to get the prize at the end, or the accomplishment at the end?
I think it's more so, like, if I'm being honest, it's more that I feel like if you're going to be crowd, you feel like you disappoint them. Like, I'm sure people just want to come and hang out as well, but like, Yeah, for the most part. Even like last night, like it is what it is. It was a really tough challenge. Couldn't have given anything more. But when you've got like 50, 60 people cheering for you, and you look down and you're like 3 minutes, it's not going to happen. It's sort of like they want you to win. Like they're supporting you. So that's the part where I'm like, like not even for me, because I was sort of, I eat all the time. Like I have multiple different wins and losses throughout the week or month or whatever. But sometimes it's, well, not sometimes, all the time. The only thing that really like, because if I'm just sitting at home doing like we did a challenge the other day at home because we had the cyclone. So we got some Uber Eats and did something at home. If I fail that, like I don't feel like you just know, all right, that's my limit, and next time I'll get better. But when there's a big crowd and you feel like you've not even underperformed, because that was everything I had yesterday, you still just want to do well for the people, and that's the part that probably does make me a little bit disappointed, because you're like, I really wanted to get it done for everyone here, sort of thing. So,
when it comes to the crowd, do you find that the crowd can sometimes be a distraction more than an encouragement?
no, to be honest, because I just go like, I think I got it from the fighting, but just tunnel vision. Like I actually like see everyone say hello, and then when I'm eating, like I don't even hear them. Then I'll watch back the videos, and people are saying stuff and cheer, and like, but it's the same when I was fighting. People were outside of the corner of my dad. I would not hear other voices. I could hear what they were telling me to do, but someone could be saying whatever, and then I watch back my fights, or I watch back my challenges, and I go, hey, that's fun when someone's cracking jokes, someone's doing something, but I'm just not even, I'm just right here. And I think that's why I enjoy the challenges and the boxing and that, because I've struggled in the past with being present. I feel like I'm a bit of an anxious dude. I'm always like, oh, what's over here? Like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Whereas like things that make me feel very present, or things that make me have to focus on the moment, they're the things that I really chase in life. Because like, I guess it's like riding a motorbike. When you're riding a motorbike, you're on the motorbike. You're not thinking about that, because, you can't make a mistake in a motorbike. Otherwise, it's costly. So I think that's I don't think it makes a big difference, but afterwards it definitely makes a difference, because then it's sort of like, particularly when you win, like when things go well, it's like a high. It feels like I've just won a boxing fight when you got like, 50 or 100 people cheering for eating food. I'm like, what a life. What's going on?
I so badly want this. I normally get people cheery to put it down. Put it down, Wayne. That's your 9th piece of pizza, mate. Put it down. It's interesting when it comes to crowds, right? Because we have crowds regardless of what we do. There's always people watching our lifestyles as men. They watch our marriages, they watch our parenting, they watch everything we do. They watch how we live morally. There's always the crowd there. But I think you've made an important point there, which is sometimes you've just got to get tunnel vision and zone out from everything else that's going on around you and focus on the task at hand. And I think that's what sometimes throws men, is they take their eyes off what they're supposed to be eating, the challenge itself, and they look at the crowds, they look at the faces, they listen to the voices, they look at the movement, and that can be the very thing that throws a lot of men in whatever they're doing.
For sure. And I actually had this conversation with someone the other day that also does content full time, and he said, like, and I agree, because we both had the same conversation. We agreed when we started making videos and they went really well, they were because they were authentic. And then you start people pleasing, and then you start making videos that you think people want to see and they suck. And then you realize that I just got to be authentic anyway. And if people like it, they like it. And if they don't, they don't. And I think that's the same thing for life. Like, you do something, people are like, yeah, you're great at that. And then you go, oh, if you're great at that, like, what else do you think would make me greater? Like, I'll do the thing that, and then you sort of go off the path you're on to please people. And then it ends up becoming just this watered down version of what you were doing. And it doesn't even work because it's not you.
That's a very interesting point, because the social media here within Average Joe's, I run it all myself, and I hand up, I'll first to admit it, I'm terrible at it. I don't like social media. I'm not good at it. I don't understand it. But it's funny when you say it, because there's been times in the past where I've tried to understand an algorithm, or I've tried to understand, the process of what time to post and what to post and things like that. And I've fallen into that trap too, where you put effort into making content, you release a post, and you sit back going, the time, the effort, the research, this is going to be good. And you'll get very, very minimal interaction, nothing at all. Yeah. Then there'll be some times where, I still remember this one post, be like 2 or so years ago now, where it was somebody else's post. And I looked at it and I liked it and went, you know what? I need to post something because I haven't posted for a day. Yeah. I need to post something. I'll just post this. And it's one of my most viral. And I'm like,
that's Murphy's Law.
But what you said's true. Sometimes you've just got to go, you know what? If all I'm doing is trying to create what other people are going to like or appreciate or approve, that's the trap in itself.
For sure.
And I think that captures so many men. When you start to live for the approval and you start to live for the accolades, you start to live for are they liking me? Did they like what I said? The moment you live for that, it can throw any man.
For sure. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
The crowds is interesting. Sorry, Jamie, you going to say something?
No, go. Yeah.
The crowds is an interesting one because I've been in situations where doing a lot of public speaking in the past, the crowd's reaction can sometimes draw out a lot more of you as well.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
If they're there and the crowd's going crazy for it, you're like, oh, they're drawing more out of me. They're pulling more out of me. And sometimes that can be the motivator to go, okay, I am on the right track.
Yes.
Sometimes when the crowd's, pushing to there, it's, that's an interesting one.
Something I'm interested in is, so one thing I've always struggled with is the juggling of the different aspects of your life. You know what I mean? Like at some stages I've got work absolutely flying. At some stages I've got relationships absolutely flying. Some stages I've got money flying and health. But it's really, really hard to have it all going at the same time, sort of thing. How do you handle that sort of different aspects in your life? Because you're talking about motivation. You're at a stage now that you can do this full time.
Yes.
But before that, how did you handle all that juggling with making money, doing that sort of stuff? Or
I'm such a big list guy. Like I literally, like you said, every facet there, from like relationship, like when I was in the mines, so it'd be like relationships, mines, content, training, and I would sit there with my week, and I'd go, all right, well, I'm going to train here, here, and here. I'll do a challenge here and here. I've got to work, this half of the week I'll be here. And then you think, oh, I've still, got a relationship. So what are we going to plan here? And then I guess the whole, what we've been talking about today, just breaking things down piece by piece, because otherwise it just feels like I got 6 juggling balls in the air and 2 hands. And that a few things are going to just splat and hit the ground. So it was just sort of reverse engineering. All right, if I can do this, this, and this will go forward. And then also being okay with the fact, like you said, that sometimes the money will be really good, and other times the relationship will be going great, and then there'll be other times where you'll get a few bookings cancelled, and it's like, all right, well, this is a time where the money's a bit harder. And I think it's just learning to be okay with the peaks and troughs and trusting the process, because that was the hardest thing I found when, particularly in that time, is trusting the process. This was my 5-year goal. I didn't think it would happen in 12 months. For the mines, I mean, I thought I'd be there for at least 5+ years. But it was just exactly what you said, just understanding that sometimes things will be better than others, as long as they're all still at a level that are okay. I don't want, with relationship, money, work, I never want to get it to the point where something's, just about to catastrophically end because I've just been ignoring it or pretending like it's fine.
You brought up something interesting there. So you were saying you had a 5-year plan, but you're realising you're hitting it in 12 months.
Yeah,
that's a massive thing in itself, I think, because a lot of men don't even have 5-year plans. A lot of men just coast along and with nothing at all. But when you're at a time where you start to accomplish more and more faster than what you had anticipated, does it change the person that you are?
I definitely think it changes the way you look at things, and in a good way. I think it'd be easy to go one way, which is just start to think that your shit doesn't stink, and it'd be real easy to get a bit egotistical. But I think I was really lucky, just from the way I was raised, to look at it like, all right, well, if I can do this was 5 years, I can do it in 1 year. What else can I do? And that's not only for myself, but spreading awareness with mental health or whatever the things that I like doing myself. But it's if I thought this would take 5 years, I can do it in 1 year. Imagine what I could do in 10 years, but still having that plan. So reach that goal, and it was awesome. This, I'm grateful, but this isn't the end. I think the problem that I've had in the past was that destination addiction of I will be happy when I get here. I will be fine when I get to the mines. Was in the mines. I was like, this sucks. I don't like this at all. But I thought I'd be happy once I got there, and I was like, what do I do after this? So that's why I had that 5-year plan, which was all right, these are the things that I want to do up to here. But as it got closer and closer, and was the 5 years is looking less, then I started making other plans. So it was I've still got a lot of short-term goals that I can just constantly strive towards. But I think if I don't have those long-term goals, I get a bit lost. Where am I actually aiming for? What am I trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that, because obviously sort of boxing sounds like was one of your first passions?
Absolutely, for sure.
And then obviously, you had to give that up. And then PT, you moved into that sort of section, and then sort of that might not have worked out to the way that you
Yeah,
wanted.
with COVID particularly.
Yeah. So how did you deal with those challenging times? Because that's something that sometimes I struggle with, or I guess I find really challenging, where you're like, I should be here,
Yes.
and this didn't work
For
out,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
and how so. Getting over, well, I now on this new thing. Let's keep pushing and driving and
Yeah.
doing that, and not thinking about, oh well, it didn't work in the past. Why is this going to work?
Yeah.
Type thing. So
Yeah.
how did you deal with that?
I actually like, it's taken me, like, I'm just about to turn 30. It's taken me like a few different life paths to get to this person I am now. Because when the boxing and stuff didn't work out, I was, it sounds like I just made that transition to PT, but there was a gap in the middle where I was just doing bad things, hanging around like bad people. I got addicted to drugs, just chasing something. Because I always had that thing, like, I'm going to be a boxer, I'm going to do this, going to do that. And then when I wasn't, I was like, what's the point of my life? Like, what am I even doing? So then I think it actually took me hitting rock bottom to go like, all right, well, it's supposed to be there, but like, this is way worse. Like, I thought I was going to be this pro boxer or something like that. But now I basically just feel like a junkie. It's like, well, anything's got to be better than here. I think having those expectations of what we feel we should be, that leads us up to disappointment, because you go, oh, I should be this. I should be more successful. Well, what are you actually? And I think it was just once I realized that, like, all right, I'm not what I thought would be, but it's a lot worse, and I can definitely be at least better than this. I think once I realized that it gets better than that, then I sort of changed my mindset. But I think it really took me hitting that rock bottom and changing who I was, because I feel like this is who I was when I was younger, and then I really lost it for a bit there, and it took me, and the support of my friends and family, but it just took really bottoming out to sort of come back to like my true north, I guess.
And did you find, say, after the PT, you recognised you weren't performing as good as, and did you get into the eating challenges quicker or go out to the mines quicker rather than going back to rock bottom again?
Yes, for sure. I think once I identified the like self-destructive patterns that I have, which something would go bad, and then you just insert sabotaging behavior here. But once I realized that that's a pattern that I have, like something goes wrong, and then I throw my hands in the air and go, oh, poor me, this sucks, and then go on a bender or do whatever. But yeah, you're right. Once I left that behind, I was like, okay, well, moving into this next thing, if something goes wrong, I go, oh, well, one door closes, another door opens. Whereas before I'd be like, woe is me, it's the end of the, sort of thing, sort of self-pity a bit. Like,
Mate, just staying in that kind of tough time that you had
Yeah.
for a bit there. Now, I've spoken to some of the guys that listen, and they're going through addictions, and they're in that spot now where they're in the bad time.
Yeah.
Now, you said you'd have good days and bad days, and can you just talk us a bit through that for the guy that's at home that's in that spot right now, and he's yet to find his stride.
Yeah.
How did you work through that? When you had a bad day, what did you do to correct that? What was your process?
So I never actually went to like AA, but I used to talk to a lot of people, because mine was like more drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I spoke to a few people that had done the AA program and been sober for like 30 plus years and just started getting advice from them. But they used to say to me, their biggest thing is just one day at a time. So it'd be like, all right, like how can I win today? If it's like, oh, I'm not going to do drugs today, I'm just going to go to the gym, going to go outside. If I feel like, doing whatever, I'm just going to do this instead. And I still do it actually years later. Every night before bed, I make a list on my, like a to-do list of like, non-negotiables and things I will do the next day. And then I just get such satisfaction from like I press the little tick box on my notes, but it means, like if that thing is today, I will stay sober. Like I can't tick that till the day's done. So it'll be the last thing I do. And I think it's just realizing that it gets better, because I just had to constantly remind myself that it can get better, but it doesn't feel like it, because your brain will tell you it won't get better. And I think that's that. When you're really in the pits of it, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy, which is your own thoughts. But it's just telling you like, oh, you did have particularly post breakup or whatever, you did have a happy relationship, you did have a good job. Now you don't, you're a loser and all. But you just got to go, well, this is not really me speaking. It's just my insecurities talking. But how do I just beat today? If I can get through to tomorrow, and what we said too with the people sort of quitting on life, for lack of a better way of putting it, but they're the people that I think they just don't, they're like too busy thinking like 5 years down the track, what does my life look like without my wife? We've broken up, what do we do? Opposed to like, well, this sucks, but how do I just live today? 'Cause I think if you focus too far in the future, that's when it just gets so overwhelming. For me, the first few times I tried to get off drugs and stuff, you gotta be like, all right, well, this is my plan. I'm gonna be sober for 2 years or a year or forever. Forever's forever. Holy shit. Like that scares the hell out of me, man. Like I'll be sober for today. I can do that. And I'll be sober for tomorrow. But tomorrow, I don't even think about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think about tomorrow. So I would just go, I'm sober for today. And then the next day I'd be, I'm sober for today. Sober. And that was way easier because every time I'd be like, going to be sober for 12 months or I'll do dry July. No, I won't because it goes so long. It just makes me feel like I can't do it. Like,
Yep. And did you have days where you slipped up?
oh, for sure. I had days where and it took such a long, like, I still have, like, I'd never really had a problem with alcohol. I still have the occasional drink and stuff here now, but it took me probably a year and a bit, if not longer, to actually get to the point where I was, like, I'd say, like, off everything, like sorted, like had myself sorted and I didn't think about it constantly. Because even, it probably took me 12 months to actually not slip up. And then after that 12 months, like it probably took another 3 months to not think about it all the time. Because even though I wasn't slipping up, people go, oh, you just beat it. Like you don't, because you still think about it. Like and that's what this in recovery, like ex-alcoholic said to me. He said, I haven't drank for 40 years and I'm still an alcoholic. I was like, well, no, you're not, because you don't drink. He said, but if I drink today, very likely I could just go straight back into it. And I know that about myself. Like that's what he said. And I was like, well, that's a really interesting thing because it changed the way I look at slip-ups. Because before it was sort of like, oh, well, like you can always start fresh. But then once I realized that, like, if I keep giving myself too much slack, I'll never get there. But then also, if you're too hard on yourself, you just quit as well. So I think it's a delicate balance.
Yep. But you say finding your purpose there.
Yes.
Really dragged you out. So when you're sitting there and you're at your low point, how did you kind of come across getting into that, finding that purpose and finding your stride? I
started like looking down the path of like self-help books, and I was sort of like, some of them were like good, some of them not so much. But then I really, since a young age, I've always wanted to do motivational speaking. So I actually just started listening to motivational speakers, but the way they talk about helping other people, like, they're just so passionate. And I really resonated with that. And I was like, well, if people only remembered me, and I heard, like, I think it was Les Brown or someone said, if people only remembered you for one thing, what would it be? And that changed. I was like, it wouldn't be, boxing was cool, partying and shit wasn't even that cool. But like, I don't want people to be like, oh, Jimmy, the boxer, Jimmy, the drug addict. But I thought, well, if it could be Jimmy, the guy that helps people, or something like that. And it sort of changed my way. Like, what would my purpose be if I could only be remembered for one thing? And that was the thing that was like, all right, well, maybe I'm beating all these hard times for helping other people. And it's been so awesome to now be in a position where I'll have talks and stuff about like mental health and that sort of stuff. And people will reach out and be like, hey, man, you really helped. And I think, well, shit, that's the purpose I got off all this shit. Like, it comes full circle, but sort of trying to see the vision when you're at your lowest point is so beneficial, but so difficult. I think you've got to really use your imagination of like, if I beat this shit, what will I achieve? Because it's really easy in the pits to just think like, I can't do it. But if you can have that vision, I think it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, nice.
I think something I'm finding amazing is just how much internal dialogue you work with through that sort of stuff. And I think that is part of the process, is that self-awareness and actually going, okay, how do I feel? What's going on? Like, do you know what I mean? And eventually, when you get to that stage, it is about giving back, because you've got yourself out of a difficult situation. And it's natural as men, like, we do it for our partners, we do it for our kids, we do it for our mates, where you want to make people that you care about's life better or easier, or help them along the way. That's why team sports are so important, because sometimes it is easier to go, I've got your back and I'm going to work harder for you than I work for myself. Do you know what I mean? So I think that is part of the process, and that is one of the keys, is actually sort of going on that search of, how do I become a better man? And then actually working out what works well for you, and actually having that ability to sit down, look within yourself to go, what is actually going on here? Like, what is... Yeah.
Sticking with that burger again, for some reason, I've got burgers on my mind. Sitting in front of I've got to get a burger after this, I swear to God. Sitting in front of a massive burger, right? And you were saying before about like alcoholics and people that have come off addictions, not thinking 5 years, not thinking 5 weeks, but just trying to get through today.
For sure.
Setting small. When you're in front of a burger, Do you? What's okay? I'll start with one question first. What part of the burger is easy to eat? The meat.
I always
the
try to do
bread?
the protein first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So leading on to my second question then, is it because proteins, like are you starting with what's easier or do you start with what's harder?
I find it easier to get the protein down because, like, starch and bread, and even in terms of just the speed in which you can like get it in. I feel like the patty itself is a lot easier to chew and swallow, especially if it's like mince, like a beef patty kind of thing. And the bread's the thing that's like dry, and you got to drink a lot of water with it. And sometimes it's the starch that can make you feel really full. So I try and like the chips and the bread, I sort of leave them dead last because like they're gonna fill you up, but that's fine because it's at the end. Like I don't want to feel like half full before we even tackled like the 2 kilo patty or whatever it is, sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's a mix between it's easy to get it down and it's also quicker as well, so that you got more time to play with at the end.
I find that so interesting you said it that way because I totally agree with you. I think any man listening out there facing a challenge and looking and listening to this podcast and looking at it the same way we are, of when you break something down, right, as big as the challenge seems, when you break it down, start with what you know you can do straight away.
Definitely.
Start with, whether you call it the easy thing or whatever you want to call it, but start with what you know you can beat.
Yes.
Because if you can start there, I think there's those little wins that then trigger in your head. Okay, well, I got through the protein.
Yeah.
I knew I could. Now I'm here. Now I can start on the harder things. And I think that's the key, starting with what you know you can
Definitely. I think it's momentum, right?
100%.
Once you get that momentum, it's like, all right, I'm cooking with gas now. Like I'm halfway through it, even though you might not be. Like weight-wise, you might be halfway through it, but the other half might be bread, which is harder deep down. But you're like, well, if I'm halfway, I can get further.
Mm-hmm. So when you've broken something down into what's hard and what's easier, what you know you can do, what you might find a bit more of a challenge, right? The heading of this topic being one bite at a time, is there anything where you're inside of a challenge, and let's just say it's the protein or the bread, whatever it is there something within a challenge where you go, you know what, although I've broken this down into one bite at a time, but there are some things where you can approach it 2 bites at a time? Is there sometimes where you can back yourself bigger and go, hang on, I know I can do this, so I'm going to go in harder and faster compared to the others?
Yeah, for sure. So even like when I was starting with like, burger challenge or stuff, like, you'll do like a multiple patty burger and you just start like, I do one patty. But as you get a little bit more experienced and better and sort of figure out your rhythm of eating, that's when I start like double, triple stacking patties. And then you start like you said, taking bigger bites because you're more confident. And sort of going, all right, well, instead of, I'm going to tackle the easy task, but maybe I can do 2 at once. The easy part, but maybe I can do 3 at once. Like, or for pizza, for instance, like I'll do 2 slices and then just leave the crust. The crust is the hard part of a pizza. So the crust is the last thing I'll leave, but I might eat like 2 slices of pizza and eat the whole middle bit out of 2. So now I'm going double as quick as when I would have started from knowing that that's the easier part. So like you said, I guess it's building on that momentum and you're like, I can do this easily. And then you go, well, I could probably do, instead of jumping straight to the hard stuff, maybe I could do more of the easy stuff quicker.
You mentioned before when you were talking about the minds and stuff, you were saying, you can get stuck with that mind concept of, I'll be happy when, like, I'll be happy when I join the minds, or I'll be happy when this, I'll be happy in that. And we all know, and I guess most men can say this that have ever had that kind of mindset, is that the happiness is not there.
No.
So it doesn't matter what it is you're chasing, because there are so many men out there going, oh, you know what, I'll be happy if I can marry this or get with this girl, or I'll be happy if I can get this promotion, I'll be happy when. And I think that cycle of chasing, you're smoking for some reason.
I'm just thinking of that joke where they go, it doesn't matter how hot they are, there's someone out there that's sick of their shit.
But the problem in that, though, is that it is a vicious cycle of that brain pattern saying, I'll be happy when.
Yes.
And when you get there, you never are. What do you think is the place within a man, that he does find happiness? Where do you think that does lie?
I think it's just for myself at least, but I think it's also just learning to be more present and sort of also be like I think gratitude helps. I think being present and grateful, because if I was to think about where I am now compared to where I was, I'm stoked and I'm very, very content. Like even to be here talking to you guys, stoked, really, really happy. But if I focus too much on what I want to achieve, sometimes I almost think like I'm not doing enough. Like I would be happier when I'm in America. I'd be happier when, you're getting thousands for appearances and et cetera. But I think like when you can just appreciate what you have done for yourself, like, you don't have to stop and be like, I'm done now. But like you said, I think a lot of guys, like, you know, even in the mines, like you look around, you've got a wife, kids, house, like that's great. Like, you know, you might be happy when you leave the mines, but you can still be happy there now because week on, week off, you've got a week with the family, you've got a shitload of money. But I think it's just easy sometimes to not see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing I found is like actually stopping and going, wait a minute, like, yeah, it'd be cool to be here, but like it's pretty cool to be here as well, you know.
When you're in a food challenge, right, and you're, you know, the meal in itself's 10,000+ calories in a meal, right? When you're in a challenge like that, you balance that out by staying fit.
Yes.
You pump out the cardio, you're lifting weights. So you found a way to go, right, if I'm going to take 4 to 5 times the amount of suggested calorie intake for the day, I counterbalance that by doing all this.
Yes.
You look at challenges that men face that they're approaching. How do you think men counterbalance challenges the same way you counterbalance it with exercise?
I think it's really important to like acknowledge stressful times, because I think sometimes, like you said, with, you know, like with jobs taking on more than you can do, I think you need to actually plan in your schedule some form of like relaxation. It could be, you know, spending time with the family, it could be golf or something that's a contrast, because I think it's so easy to go like, all right, I'm the provider, I'm this, I'm that. You know, you have a really stressful time, but you don't acknowledge the fact that like you've just put your body up here. Like your body's heightened, you're stressed, your cortisol's through the roof. Like, what are you going to do to bring it back down? And then people go, man, I'm always getting sick. I'm always exhausted. I'm always fighting with the kids. Like, or, you know, I'm snappy all the time. It's like, yeah, because you never bring your baseline back down. Like you go to work and you're stressed, and then you come home and then you're stressing about finances. I think it's, you know, even just with your mental balance, like your stress, I think it's important to actually schedule in, you know, sometimes I think as blokes, we feel like we're being lazy, but sometimes you need to actually schedule some form of rest, because, you know, your brain and your body doesn't know that, oh, I feel like I'm being lazy. It just knows that you're getting a rest. So I think it's important to also like plan that time for recovery, and otherwise you just burn out. And I've seen it so many times with athletes, workers, you know, corporate guys that are mates, but they always feel like they got to be more and do more for everyone around them, but they don't actually stop and go like, am I okay? And I think that's just like the food. Like if I'm doing hell, like big challenges, I could actually stop and be like, well, the world might want more challenges, but for 3 days, I'm going to go be a hermit, get off social media and just do some cardio and go to the beach. And because it would be so easy to burn out from the social media, but also it'd be so easier to blow out from the challenges. And I think that's just like life. It'd be so easy to just send yourself crazy by always trying to do more and never actually factoring in the fact that you still need to reset.
100% agree with you, mate. I've had this conversation with Lisa many times. I've come up next month, actually married for 25 years, and I've had this conversation with her many times. She'll hear me take phone calls, work-related phone calls, and the stresses that come with it. And I'll get off the phone and she'll be like, are they the kind of phone calls you get every day? And I go, babe, that's like 1 of 10 I get. Like that, literally, that's what I cope with every single day. But in her saying that, she's quite often said after that, oh, I understand why now when you come home, like it's the balance of not being stressed at home. Because if you come home, if you're leaving work and you're stressed and you come home and cop more stress, there's a total misbalance. But it's true. I know you're smirking, Mike, because we've had this conversation many times. But I'm
wondering how you tell Pip for me.
I'll just message you now. Back off, Mike. Leave him alone. No, but it's true. Like it's one thing for you to over-consuming calories, but then balance it with a lot of exercise.
Yes.
For men, when we get overstimulated with the challenges that we get with stresses and things at work, one of the biggest keys is to come home to an at-home environment that carries less stress, because that in itself, if there's no stress at home but there's stress at work, I think we can take on more.
Yes.
Because you're balancing it there, like what you're saying with exercise. I think that's massive key. I've watched tons of your videos, man, because like I said, I've been following you for a bit, and I've seen you do them. I've seen you. Let's just stick with the burger again. You're breaking down a burger, right? There's parts of the burger that are easy to eat, right? And let's call it the protein.
For sure.
But there's been some times where you're eating something and you take a couple of big bites and you'll take a sip of a drink. Now, I'm guessing the sip of the drink is to moisten your mouth and make it easier to chew.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you reckon in regards to men taking on challenges in life? What do you reckon can represent taking the drink? Do you think it's support from other mates that can help? Like, what do you think helps men get through challenges?
For sure. I definitely think, that's exactly what you said with the mates and just having that, like, in a race, like, in a marathon, you stop and you have your little aid stations, and that's the way I look at, like, the water, like trying to get the burger down. It's like, oh, I need something. That's that little aid, something to kind of kick you along the way. I think, we can only do so much. And like with wives or children and they're the people we love the most, but at the same time, they're not us. So it's very hard to, explain to your partner. That's why I've got a one or two really good, like, mates that I can just go, like, even if I'm fighting with the missus or, something's gone on with family, I can just, and they understand where I'm coming from. Otherwise, it's sort of, I think it's really important to have those guys that understand guys that you can go to mid whatever you're doing and sort of have that little pep along, even if it's just something like, yeah, man, like sometimes you just want to feel acknowledged. Like, can you believe this? That's crazy. That's all I need sometimes. Cool. Like, all right, cool. But exactly right. I think it's just having that support network outside of your, like, family. Because obviously you got your, like, family support network, but they're not necessarily in your shoes. And I think it's a lot easier for other blokes to put themselves in your position at least,
100%. Mate, take two challenges, right? A challenge that you thought you would accomplish but didn't, and one that you didn't think you would accomplish but did. What's the difference that plays in your mind?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it's just, it plays through your head where it's sort of like, I was getting a lot easier now. At the time, it'd just be like real kind of like, I'd second guess a lot of other things. When that would happen, I'd be like, well, if I thought I could do it and I can't, like, what else can't I do? But then it would work the counter, which is like, oh, I didn't think I could do this, and you can. What else can I do? I think it's just trying to be impartial to, like, all right, well, this is how I feel, but it doesn't mean, if you fail one that you thought you're going to do, it doesn't mean I suck all of a sudden. But then the flip is, if I do one I didn't think I could do, I'm not suddenly, like, way better than I initially thought. So I think it's just trying to stay as grounded as possible and realize that just like in my regular life, I think sometimes I've been really disappointed because I've got assumptions. Like, this is going to happen, I'm going to get this. And then when I don't get it, I'm, like, really disappointed. And I think by having those challenges that have curveball me and I'm like, oh, for better or for worse, it's sort of now I don't go into anything with expectations. It's like, I'll go there and we're just going to see what happens. Like we said, prepare for the best, but if the worst happens, I'm not going to be, like, totally devastated. Whereas before it would be like, I'm going to smash this. And if I didn't, I would let that ruin however long it would sit in my brain for.
It's an interesting one because Mike and I were just having this conversation the other day about jobs that because both Mike and I run our own businesses, and we're just saying how there's jobs where you put a fair chunk of money on it because you're thinking it's going to take you 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
But then you get there and you knock it off in an hour and you're like, did I really just get this whole thing done in an hour? And you go, wow, there's good coin on that one. But then there's jobs where you're like, you think it's going to take half an hour, so you put a couple of $100 on, and it ends up taking you all day, and you're like, sometimes you win massive, and sometimes you lose out big time.
Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes you've just funded someone else.
It's with the food challenges too, because like within Australia we don't get paid via TikTok or Instagram or anything. It's
oh really?
Nothing. Yeah. So which is funny. It's hard to explain. It was hard to explain to people initially because I've got like 200,000 on Instagram and 90,000 on TikTok. But to dollars and cents, like in Australia, that equates to zero. Like, that's absolutely nothing. But it's obviously people see you and they go, oh, okay, cool. Like, we can do, like, you could reach out to a business and have like a letter of offer and go, all right, well, we'll do a collaborated video and it'll cost this much. So you end up basically with like letters of offer. And exactly what you just said, sometimes you're sort of charged based on how difficult it is. Because if it's going to be super hard, like, it's going to potentially hurt. So you'd charge more, and other times you'd charge less if it's going to be really easy. But there's a few times I've gone into stuff like, oh, this would be, like, here's a cheap quote because it's going to be easy, and you get rolled. And then there's another one where you give them a big quote because you're like, this is going to suck. And then it's like 5 minutes, and you're like, oh, like, so, yeah, it's hard to gauge it, I guess. But I guess you just got to take the good days as the good days and the bad days as a lesson. But it's hard when I was starting because I would just be so hard, like,
it's a loss leader, isn't it?
Yes.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
You got to roll with the punches.
That's it.
Did you have someone teach you all this kind of stuff behind it, like your social media stuff? Did someone talk you through it?
No, or yes and no. So I was sort of just freestyling it for ages and just like Googling and trying to figure stuff out. But I was actually really, really blessed but I actually got connected with the guy from social media that is Jay Webby. Actually, do you know the guy that?
Yeah.
Unreal, bro, fantastic human. So 4th best in the world out of all the humans in eating, like competitive eating. Just set the chicken wing world record. I think he got 224 wings in 10 minutes.
Whoa.
But that's how good he is. So, but he is a competitive eater. I just
We'll
do
see about this, lads.
but he does the competitions against other people because that's his bread and butter. He loves it. But he reached out to me when I was still in the mines, and he was just sort of like, "Man, you're doing really well. Like, I hope you're making some good money for this." And I was like,
Money?
"You guys get paid for this? What? You're making money? Like, but I work underground. I'm making no money." He's like, "Oh, well, you got to see it like when you're doing something for a business, like." Social media within this like spec is very fun. I love it. Like I would do it just for the entertainment, but now it's become a job. You've got to think more business, and that's the part I struggle with to start with. But he said, "You're advertising for free and it's very true. People will see you doing an eating thing, and and I do it myself. I'll watch these other guys, and if I see what they're eating and it looks really good, I'll go to that place, and it sort of becomes like it's better than an ad because an ad's going to always be unbiased towards like come to this place and eat this but I think like the way the world is going is like there's so much power in social media. But so he was the one that taught me about actually being able to monetize it and he bless him because he's such a great dude. But yeah, just having that guidance, and I think that was the thing when we started talking, it made me realize that there's a lot more to learn, and it got me like prompted to reach out to even more people because I think as guys, it's really hard to ask for help. So he sort of sparked this thing where I was like, whoa, he just taught me everything. Like then I'd reach out to other people that do similar stuff, or even if it's not the food, be the social media and be like, hey man, like, can I ask you some questions? And I actually haven't had anyone, like any of the blokes I've reached out to say no yet. So, but like I was real nervous to ask for help because I sort of thought like, oh, I don't want to, don't want to bother these guys. I don't want to be a nuisance. I could probably figure it out by myself. But yeah, so that was like, he reached out to me and helped. And that was the thing that sort of got me reaching out to other people, but up until then, there's no way I would have reached out to anyone. Yeah, for sure.
Which is a typical thing within men, just reaching out for help. Just such a looks bad, mate. Oh yeah, let me go for it.
So there was something I just wanted to go back to. So when we're talking about balance, it seems like you've really set yourself up though with positive balancing points rather than negative balancing points.
Trying to, yeah.
Yeah. Was it like a process that you went through where you had to sort of like analyze and go, look, I'm doing this and this isn't making me feel better. I need to change something. Like,
yes.
Is there a process that
for sure?
Go, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just like a bit of a process of elimination of putting things into place that I thought would help, whether it be like, like taking some time off social media between the challenges or like the diet and exercise, or even the way I train. That's changed. That's sort of evolved as I've learned more and more. But when I started, like I really didn't know what I was doing, so I was just putting things into place that I thought would work. And the most of like my routine now compared to what it used to be is completely different. I think it's just process of elimination from you put something in there and it might be negative balance and it's like nah, that doesn't work, and then slowly kind of letting it evolve. But I think when I started, I was too fixated with like this seems to be working and I can't change it. Like I'm seeming to be getting good results, so I've got to stick to this. But then realizing that there's like a million ways to skin a cat sort of let me like let go of the stuff that maybe wasn't serving me as much as I thought it initially was.
Yeah. And I think that's a big point there where you said it's not serving you as well as much as you do. Because a lot of guys will go, oh, I've had a big week. I'll just go have a beer and go on a bender. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're back at work before you know it. And you're like, really, is this good for me?
Yes, you feel relaxed, but are you actually, is it restorative to your body as well, I guess,
Yeah.
When you're doing a challenge, mate, I see you get yourself prepped, you sit down, the food comes, and you get your little stop clock. And you're
a little Kmart timer.
Yeah, little Kmart timer, right? It's one thing to have a challenge in front of you that's governed by a finish line.
Yeah.
What would you say to guys that are in a challenge that they don't know when it's going to end? How does that man persevere?
I think just focusing on the here and now, like sort of not stressing too much about when it will end, but just having faith that it will. Because I think if you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, even if you can't see it, you'll keep searching for that light. But if you only focus on the light and you can't see it, I think it's just too easy to give up because, like, you know, sometimes you just got to operate out of faith that things will get better even if you can't see it. And I think that's the thing because there's not always going to be that timeline like, oh, you know, this sucks, but in 2 months it'll be okay. Like sometimes it won't be. But I think it's just having the faith that things will get better and knowing that you can deal with it. But I know that's a lot easier said than done. But I think that's just like baby steps, one day at a time.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Lads, want to add anything?
Look, from a lot of what you've gone through, it's just like goal setting, though. Like it's like you're approaching your life.
Yes, yeah.
Ticking off the goal sort of thing, you know,
Yep.
where you're talking about like preparation, you're talking about mindset, you know, you're tackling the challenges with the process. You're not only just, once you've got the results, you're actually thinking about how you can better it next time or finding the next challenge and all that sort of stuff. So I think that there's a lot of that relatable stuff where it is just, you know, and the discipline of where you're going, okay, I'm working out what I'm going to do the next day, and you're actually sticking to those non-negotiables. So, and I think that it's amazing how you've taken different aspects of your life and the lessons that you've learned throughout your life into the next journey and into the next season and into the next season. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I got out of it. So, yeah.
Mikey, want to add anything, bud?
Mate, I just want to know, I know you mentioned before we came in that you're planning a move.
Oh, yeah.
So when you are settled, obviously you're a big hero for Wayne, being able to hit that amount of food. So it would be awesome if we could come and visit you over wherever you settle.
Definitely,
mate, and, maybe come and cheerlead you on a couple of challenges.
Absolutely.
Maybe do a round two, hey?
Hell yeah.
I was talking to Lisa yesterday about this, about you coming on, and saying, oh, look, obviously it's what I'm good at. I love eating, right? I love cooking as well. But I go, it feels like every time I walk into my pantry, I'm actually stepping into my own food challenge anyway, right? Because I see a bag of chips, and the first thing that enters my mind is, how do I eat that so fast that no one notices I'm eating? Because Lisa's like, you literally are in your own challenge. She goes, because we know you're in there. And it's like you're trying to get it done as quick as you can so no one notices. I'm like, damn right. Fast down. Mate, I took some notes when you were... obviously during today on what we can leave some men with in regards to how we can take on challenges in life in using your story as a reference and looking at it one bite at a time. And I've written down, break it all down into pieces. Start with what's easy and then just balance it well.
Yeah.
Mate, anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
I think just for anyone listening that is going through a really hard time, I think it's just important to realize that you're not alone, because I think, you know, particularly as blokes, it's really easy sometimes to feel like you're just so... you know, you're in the worst place ever and no one will understand it. And when you're in that place, that definitely feels that way. And so that there's no shame in feeling that way. But I think, you know, whether it be, like you said, through like having like a good bunch of blokes around you, or even just goal setting or breaking it down to smaller pieces, I think just realizing that you're not alone and you can do it it's so powerful, because once you start telling yourself, I guess your life just becomes what you tell yourself. And if you constantly tell yourself you will do it, you will. But I think that, like we said before, it's too easy to say you won't. But, you know, I think just like exactly that, just saying that you will do it and then realizing you're not alone and just telling yourself you're not alone. Like, I think there's so much power in the way we talk to ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, mate, we can't thank you enough for being on here.
That was fun.
Truly,
Thank you so much.
Mate, it was so good. Lads, thanks for joining us here once again at the Men's Collective Podcast. We are the Average Joes, like we say every single week. Get along to your local meetup. Hit us up on all the socials, see where we are. But listen, get along, jump on Instagram, jump on all the socials with Jimmy. It's Jimmy Judge. Follow him. I'm always entertained, have been from the very start of watching it. I'm jealous. I find myself licking my phone through half his challenges, wishing I was the one. But listen, jump on socials, find him, follow him. He's definitely worth it. He's entertaining. It's good for a laugh, but it's also good for just seeing you conquer things and get through it, mate. Once again, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
It's really, really good to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you
Legends,
so much.
enjoy your week.
See you, lads.
See you, boys.
See you later.